On May 29, 1986, the NBA handed Larry Joe Bird his third consecutive MVP award, a feat that was done for just a third time in NBA history, and a milestone that capped off one of the greatest stretches of basketball in NBA history. For a guy who couldn't really jump, had no high-flying acrobatics, no flashy handles, and sometimes looked even slower than a parked car, he just played the game better than anyone else in the NBA at the time. In the league with the likes of Dr. J, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, the list goes on and on. And with this third MVP trophy, Bird capped off one of the all-time impressive 3-year runs in the history of the sport from 1984 to 1986. Here's what Larry Bird did during these 3 seasons, and I think you might only begin to understand the level of greatness this man displayed in his prime years if you haven't already. 3 MVPs, 2 NBA Finals MVPs, 3 consecutive starts in the All-Star game, finished with the highest PER 2 times, the highest value over replacement player 2 times, had the highest box plus minus 3 straight seasons, led in win shares and defensive win shares 2 times, 3 straight All-NBA first team selections, and won 2 NBA titles. One of the greatest 3-year stretches in NBA history. Again, all for a guy that no one even brings close to the conversation as one of the top 5 players in the history of the sport. Well, fast forward 37 years later, and I think we finally discovered the next iteration of Larry Bird. Not in size, stature, or even persona, because if you look at it that way, you couldn't be further from a good comparison. But just in production, athletic capabilities, and yes, even skin tone, then we have the next coming of Larry Bird. His name is Nikola Jokic.
What impresses you about Nikola Jokic?
He makes me smile. He has a lot of fun out there, and he's unorthodox, and he doesn't look the part. I've said it before, he looks like a kind of a tall pudge kind of guy out there with no real muscle definition, so to speak. He doesn't look athletic. He doesn't sprint up and down the court. He doesn't jump out of the gym, and then he kicks your butt because he's so skilled, he's clever, he is totally unselfish, and you combine all that, and it's just what a great guy to play with. And on top of everything, he finds people, and when people receive passes, they're happy, and he delivers very often.
2 guys who don't appear to have that fiery, intense, and killer instinct mindset that Bird was known for. But Jokic, while not on the same level as Bird, is no nice guy. For several years, NBA fans and commentators have compared Luka Doncic to Larry Bird, primarily because they're both white and play the game more cerebrally than physically. And it's true, Luka is a genius with the ball in his hands, and especially when he's down inside the lane. Bird had that same creativity, but the closer I look at this entire comparison, the more it makes all the sense in the world. Jokic is the new age Bird. Let's just take a look at it in richer detail, side by side. Unless you've been on another planet or just deleted your social life in the past handful of years, Nikola Jokic is in the midst of one of the most unexpectedly dominant runs in the history of the NBA. When did we ever think a 7-foot Serbian guy would take over the NBA and do things we had never seen before? He's won the MVP in each of the last 2 seasons, and if things continue to take shape the way I think they will, Jokic will be the next man in line since Larry Bird to win the MVP award a hallowed 3 straight seasons. A feat that hasn't been done since 1986 and has only been done 3 other times in NBA history. Not even Mount Rushmore faces of the NBA can say they pulled off 3 straight. Not Magic, not LeBron, not Kobe, not MJ, and certainly no one else. Yet in a couple of months, Jokic can join Bill Russell, Wilt, and Larry Bird as one of the few guys sitting at the 3 straight award winners table. Why? Well, this is what he's done for almost 3 years now. He led the NBA in win shares, offensive win shares per 48, PER, value over replacement, and offensive and defensive box plus minus. He was selected as a starter in 3 straight All-Star games and 3 straight All-NBA first teams. Kind of sounds similar to the man I talked about earlier on what he did from 1984 to 1986. And if he keeps up his production, he's on pace to finish number 1 for the 3rd year in a row for all of these major advanced statistical categories. This is absolutely insane. It would have been appalling had Jokic lost either of these last 2 MVP awards to anyone else. But thankfully, the voters are not like some fans that haven't been fully acknowledging his greatness. And I even go as far as to say that it would have been a travesty if Jokic doesn't land his 3rd straight MVP award. The Nuggets are sitting on top on an absolutely loaded Western Conference and have been at the top for nearly the entire season. And Jokic is, well, being Jokic.
Jokic inside, counted and a foul, I tell you what.
Putting up stupidly great numbers in a winning effort. Just put these last 3 seasons, including this one, side by side with Larry Bird's run from 1984 to 1986. The production is scary similar, and both guys flex their dominance over the rest of the NBA in ways that fans haven't quite seen before. The only difference is, of course, the missing hardware from Jokic's resume that Bird had during his 3 consecutive MVP campaigns. But it will be ignorant for any of us to dismiss Jokic as not a winner, or someone who just stuffs the stat sheet. Pop said it best when he was describing Jokic, and said he's the next Larry Bird. He's fundamentally gifted, plays the game so intuitively that even an old guy like Pop is in awe of him. And yet, he's still the prince of advanced analytics in today's NBA. Old school and advanced analytics, those two don't even go together. Just like Larry Bird and advanced analytics didn't go together. These guys don't have the makeup to overwhelm the stat sheet like LeBron or MJ, but they are geniuses that are unlike anything we have ever witnessed. Just look at where these two shoot the ball from up and over their heads. Literally the exact same shooting form. If I didn't know better, I think that's a 7-foot, 275-pound version of Larry Bird out there making defenses look silly. Both guys simply revolutionized their positions. Bird took the prototypical scoring, high-flying small forward and made it popular to become a point forward, a point guard-like passer, and a methodical dribbler of the basketball. Jokic literally became the first point center in NBA history and is in a league of his own when it comes to passing at the center position. Already with nearly 140 career games of at least 10 assists in a game. Oh, and then there's the mentality I touched on a little while ago. If I thought both Bird and Jokic were some quiet guys that did well in math class, I would be incredibly and foolishly wrong. Larry Bird is a legendary trash talker and someone that will psychologically devastate his opponents. We know his trash talking stories are legendary. Just ask Dominique Wilkins.
I'm guarding him. My first play, he's coming down the court and I'm guarding him. He looks at me, he said, "I don't know why they have you guarding me, Holmes." And he shoots the 3. Now, I wasn't upset he made the 3. I said, but this son of a gun just called me Holmes.
And Jokic isn't all that relaxed and nice on the court either. But then again, Devin Booker has had beef with anyone who's been called the next Larry Bird.
Devin Booker and Doncic go face to face. Well, you know what? It's Wainwright has to step in. The officials.
But that's another story for another day. Sitting back and witnessing Jokic for the coming years and years is going to be fun. Watch how he continues to find ways to leave our jaws dropping. And yes, for the last time, the closest thing Larry Bird is not Luka Doncic or any other white guy with serious skills. It's Nikola Jokic. Enough said.
Defensively, Jokic is just great, and he was too much for us in the end. I mean, down the stretch, they made 3 shots in a row. He made 2 of them, and we had a chance. He's a really spectacular, interesting, different player. He's like a 7-foot Larry Bird type guy.